Welcome back to the Rent Roll Queen podcast. This episode was sponsored by Buy a Rent Roll, where deals meet destiny. Imagine growing your rent roll by 550 properties in just 1 year. Scott McWilliams of Ideal Property Co. did just that, and today he is going to talk to us about how he started his real estate business. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's talk about a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'll jump straight in. I started in real estate 2018. I'd purchased a lot of properties, and an agency that I'd purchased a big chunk of them from had said, hey, if you ever want to get into real estate, give us a call. One day I just decided, hey, that'd be fun. Let's do it. So I gave them a call, started in real estate in sales, actually. Did sales for a year.
Yep.
And then a weather event happened, a big flood. We had a lot of need for extra bodies on the ground in PM. And I put my hand up and said, yeah, let's give that a go. And started in BDM straight after leasing a bunch of properties. And I've been a BDM since then. I've been through that agency, another one after that for a few years, which was kind of where I really cut my teeth. And
in property management?
Yep. And then gone out on my own, started my own business this year. So
fantastic. So you started out in February, opening your own doors.
Correct. Yep.
And what made you decide that business ownership was for you? Like, what made you decide to step out and do this?
I think after being a BDM for so long, you kind of get into a headspace of, okay, well, why am I doing this for someone else? I could be doing this for myself. Like everyone knows, well, maybe not everyone, but if you don't, you should know what the asset value of a rent roll is. When you're growing that for someone else and you see them leveraging it to buy more rent rolls, because you should be doing both at the same time, BDM and buying rent rolls, I believe. But I guess we'll come back to that. I kind of thought, why am I doing this for someone else?
Yep.
And I knew I had the skill set. I knew I had the drive. I'd done extremely well as a BDM. Like there was 1 year I signed up 550 properties in a year. So
550 properties in a year. Can
Correct.
you tell us a little bit more about how you actually did that? That's incredible.
Honestly, I don't even know how I did it. It's an absolute blur. So the first year, so I moved across to a Harcourt's office to do this. So the first year I did 330 something in the year, and the second year 550. I knew I was going to have to make a lot of sacrifices to do it. And it was good timing.
Yes.
I mean, like, you know, the market was booming. Investors were coming into the market. So I was like, okay, let's run with this. Let's offer them, you know, a bit of a service that is a bit unique. So we were doing inspections for purchases before they were buying.
Yes,
and that was driving them straight to us rather than the other agencies. So, but it was a hard slog. It was getting there in the morning at God knows what hours, you know, working, because you put on that many properties on a rent roll in a year, there's going to be teething issues. There's going to be problems with the PMs. They're going to struggle. So most of the 8 hours in the office when the PMs were there were pretty much doing handovers, fixing problems, helping them get the properties leased, because you make all these promises and then you want to deliver on them because,
of course,
you know, the clients kind of become like friends and you don't want to disappoint them. So there was that. Then 5 o'clock would hit, the PMs would go home, and then I'd start my prospecting for the next batch, and I'd order my Uber Eats to the office that evening, and I bought a property a block away from the office so that then I was like quick home, in bed, back to the office the next day.
That's commitment.
So yeah, it was. So I knew doing that I could do it for myself because I was willing to do it for someone else for a couple of years, and it was a great place to learn.
Yeah, well, you definitely learn. Like, that's extremely impressive. But like you said, you had to make sacrifices.
Yep.
But you've also learned, like, in business, you do make sacrifices like that anyway. So like you said, when you're doing it for somebody else, why not do it for yourself?
Yep.
But you've got, you know, a lot of people don't want to do it for themselves. And I can understand that too, because there are headaches that come with running a business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said as well, like when you were growing it that quickly, with 550 properties in 1 year, you can't get the recruitment fast enough to help manage that.
You need a new PM almost every month.
Yeah. So how are you then dealing? Because you've started out in February and you've grown your portfolio now to 90.
Yep.
Since February. Like, that's incredible already, which I know that you probably could have done better. Now hearing that, I'm like, you could have done better. But let's just face it, you've got a young family and everything now as well. So it's
Correct.
very
Everything's
different.
changed for me in the last 2 years. You know, I have my daughter. I've moved to a whole different market. So when I did those properties, I was in a regional market. I've moved to Brisbane.
Yep.
So, you know, every challenge you could have thought, hey, let's take on, I did. But it's worked out well for us. Yeah, we could have grown a bit faster as well, but we've put the brakes on numerous times over the last 9 to 10 months because the PMs have said, hey, if we take more on, we'll have to sacrifice something, and we don't want to sacrifice service. At the end of the day, the promise we made to the existing clients is more important to bring a new client on. And we've done some things that are a bit outside the norm by prospecting and BDMing in regional areas to then sell the management to those offices to supplement the income in my office so that we don't have to grow so fast to be profitable in PM.
Yeah.
That way we freed up sort of our time by doing that for the PMs to have less on the portfolio, offer a better service, and, you know, hope to grow organically through referrals because of the service being a bit different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about growth, right? Because growth happens in 4 different ways.
Yep.
I believe it happens 4 different ways. So first and foremost, it's your organic growth, and that is through referral base. You go out and you meet someone. It naturally happens.
Yep.
The second is what you do, BDM work. The third is buying a rent roll. And then you've also got increasing all your management fees and so forth. So you have those 4 different ways of actually growing your portfolio, but you're very focused on a high level quality of service, which allows you to then continue your BDM knowing that your property management staff can actually manage it the way you discuss that with your landlords and what you're promising them. But then they're also referring more business to you because of that level of service that you're giving.
And it's more sustainable. You can't afford in business to pay a BDM and the commissions for signing up properties to lose them out the back because they've made promises that the PM department then can't service. And I've seen that in offices where I've worked, and it's been partly my fault because I was signing up too many. Terrible problem to have, but it is a problem. There is a point where it's like, okay, you've got to stop. You can't grow at that point.
Yeah.
It's great for the business to leverage that, obviously to buy more rent rolls, etc. But the PMs, it's not sustainable for them.
Yes.
So we recognise that. We've put things in place. I mean, I believe that we've got good service. We're now buying a rent roll, which growing organically to the 90 has allowed us to do. But we recognise that, you know, they go hand in hand. You can't BDM purely and you can't purely buy a rent roll.
Yep.
I think you've got to do both, and you've got to have like a nice synergy of a balance.
Well, you've also got properties coming on and off a rent roll constantly. Like, it's not like once you buy it, it's stagnant and that's it. Or when you grow, it's stagnant and that's it. You're going to have landlords that are going to either move into their property, sell their property, move to another agency. Unfortunately, it does happen.
Yeah.
So when it's coming on and off the rent roll and that target changes every single day, you need something or somebody to be making sure that you're still getting, or you're still BDMing and bringing on.
Replenishment.
Yes.
I think a BDM is like replenishing. It was great for us that I had the skill set, I guess, to grow it organically at the beginning, something to leverage off financially to purchase the rent roll.
Yes.
But BDM really, it should be to replenish your rent roll, to maintain it, maybe grow it a little bit, but it's never going to be your source of, not your only source of growth. I just don't think it's possible. It's not possible in a city the size of Brisbane. There's too many agents. There's too many that reduce their fees. BDMing is hard.
Right.
So to purchase a rent roll, makes sense.
Well, it just gives you that cash injection back into your business, and also allows you then, because, sometimes, let's talk about when you're looking for a rent roll then.
Yep.
Because a lot of, and I've got clients that I've seen that have purchased rent rolls that are outside the scope of what their actual business location actually can manage and cater for.
Yep.
So for you, what are you actually looking for when you're buying a rent roll?
So firstly, I look at what costs is it going to increase. So the number of properties I'm buying, is that going to put me over the threshold where my current property managers can manage them? And how is that going to increase my running costs firstly? Because if my property managers are near capacity right now and I'm going to need 1 to 2 more property managers, and perhaps the rent roll sales not coming with staff, then what's that look like for me? How hard is it in the current climate to recruit PMs? Like, everyone knows that's tough.
Yes, it is.
And then costs.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm going to buy a rent roll, I want it to sort of fit in with what we're currently doing. I want our service levels to remain the same. I don't want those to drop. I want to make sure it's in our core area where we have a core sales agent. Because at the end of the day, the way we're going to pay off our rent roll that we've purchased is through selling a few of those properties, the normal attrition rate that they would sell over the next few years.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that it's in an area where we've got our strongest sales agents, where it's going to, help them out, where it might help recruit sales agents as well.
Yes, right.
So it's not just about property management for us. It's about like looking at the whole business and how is it going to add some value. We don't want to travel to areas that are outside our like core area that we want to service. We don't want to purchase a rent roll that just doesn't really make sense to what our future goals for the business is.
Well, the thing is too, when you're also buying something that's more condensed in your area, what it also does is it allows you to have a higher multiplier.
Yes.
Which is really important because that's the value of your actual asset. Yep. But when you've got a rent roll that is quite widely dispersed and like location-wise, what happens then is the multiplier decreases because you're going to have additional staffing and more expenses and everything to run that portfolio because it's not your core actual portfolio area that you normally manage.
Yep.
So, and I see that all the time.
I bet.
So like I said to you, I've got one at the moment. They're located. Well, I'm not even going to say where they're located, but they're located in a city. And they're buying a rent roll that basically runs throughout southeast Queensland, and you've got properties that are up to nearly 300 kilometres away from their office. So when you've got all of that going on, it's very difficult to manage. And the expectation is that they can manage it with their current staffing. You're either going to be dropping the service level. You've also got to remember that, okay, there's the management side of it, which is sitting in an office having communication and with the landlords and the tenants. And then you can do your routines, like go and book a week away and go and do your routine inspections and all the rest of it during that time. But what happens with entries, exits, leasing?
Can I tell you
if there's
what
a problem,
I'm seeing around this?
Tradespeople.
This is crazy. I'm seeing people purchase rent rolls or sign things up on their rent roll that they know they can't manage.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing on Facebook groups for property managers where they're asking people, can you do routines for me tomorrow? Could somebody do my entry? I'll swap you a leasing, like an open home on the weekend for one in my area. If you can do this one that's 150 Ks away from my office. I personally don't think that that's in the best interest of the client. It's not in the best interest of your business.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really great to see that our industry is finally working together a little bit, but it's at the same time, like you said, they're not servicing it properly.
That's not how I would want to service my rent roll. If I had those in my rent roll, I'd be looking at doing some kind of trade. I'd package up a small portion of it or sell. I mean, do what you do best and do it well. When you start offering everything to everyone, you're watering down your service. You're watering something down, or you're putting extra pressure on your PMs, which at the moment they could walk into any office in Brisbane. They could say, hey, have you got a job? Someone would hire them on the spot. There's such a shortage. So, protecting your PMs is probably I'd say one of the hardest things that we come up against now as business owners. Yeah,
well, the thing is too, you don't want your property managers or yourself as a business owner to burn out. That's huge in our industry. Burnout is massive. But how do you do that? Well, it's by like you said, you've got a high quality level of service. So everyone understands those boundaries of what you're trying to achieve. They stay within the boundaries. They're not working really late evenings or all the rest of it. I mean, you got to kind of roll with what, not everyone's a morning person. I definitely am not a morning person. So you kind of just got to roll with it. But at the same time, you want to make sure that those managements, well, if they're going to be, 300 kilometres away, well, you are going to burn out your property manager. So, that's what you're doing in your business. I feel like you've got your values already set out. And then you've got your boundaries in place to protect your property managers.
I think that's one of the great things about starting your own business is that Tony, who is my business partner, we sat down with each other in November, December when we were looking at doing this. And we made a list of what were going to be our core values. What had we seen in businesses we'd both worked in that we didn't want to adopt, that we didn't want to fall into that, pitfall of just doing it for doing its sake.
Yeah.
So when you do start your own business, you get to decide, like, what is it that matters to me that's going to matter to my clients, and what are we going to put in place to make sure that we don't fall into, those same...
The trap, basically,
really,
yeah.
So we've had sort of like a Bible of, what we do or don't want in our business, especially in property management, because you kind of, you see asset value, dollar signs, and you just say, I'll take it. And we've said no to things because it's not going to help us get to the end goal.
Yeah, it hasn't aligned with what you're actually after achieving.
Correct.
But a lot of business owners don't have those goals. They haven't sat down and actually worked out exactly what they want. Or they'll hire a property manager or a BDM that goes out and sources new managements, but they're not actually having a conversation of, well, actually, this is what we want in our core area. Like, this is what we're looking for. This is how much rent this is the base level of rent we want. This is the base level of fees and charges. So when you don't have any boundaries in place, that's when you're getting basically properties that are well out of your scope, and then you're putting so much pressure on your actual business.
I think too, the structure of how you pay your BDMs makes a big difference to that. If you're paying them a percentage of, the income on the property per year based on the fee that they sign it up at, that makes a world of difference than paying them a week's rent. Yeah. If the fee doesn't matter to your BDM, the BDM doesn't care about the fee either. The worst thing you can do for your office is employ a BDM and pay them a percentage of a week's rent. Because if they're not held accountable, or there's nothing in it for them to get the higher fee, there's just no point.
Yeah, then we're signing up at 5%.
Correct. That's a story for a whole nother day. But absolutely, like, the way that you employ your BDM in that structure matters to growth.
Yeah, definitely.
And, we've looked at that. And for us, we don't even pay our BDMs a commission upfront. We pay them like a trail for the 12 months. It's a benefit for them too, because when the lease is increased, or you sign something up because, it has been under rented by the current agent. Yeah. When that changes, their fee changes. So they're not getting paid on the maybe low rent that they've signed it up at, where, is increased 3 months later. They're taking advantage of that too. So I feel like it's fair for everyone. We don't have the cost up front too of like a week's rent or whatever it is straight away. So for us, we've just made sure we put some things in place where growth is something that we can afford, and something where we have buy-in from all parties.
Well, it just makes it a team, doesn't it? That's how you bring the team together. That's what you basically tried to do. And then the property managers go, yeah, I want to manage that because it's a great property. Look, everything about it's fantastic. It's not some, shack in the woods, basically. So that's exciting as well.
And we all know that the owner that doesn't question fee is the owner that also is willing to do maintenance. Yeah. They're the owners that we all want on our rent rolls. They're the ones that the PMs are excited to work with. They're the people that, you want their business in your business. It makes everything easier.
It does make everything easier. So if you could tell somebody who's thinking about getting into the real estate, not real estate industry, but looking at going into real estate entrepreneurship, what would you say to them?
I'd say take your time, make sure that you actually have the skill set to do it. Don't rush. I mean, I thought about this for a number of years beforehand, and I knew I wasn't ready. I told the business owner that I was working with that this was my end goal, and he mentored me for a couple of years. I think it's important to make that goal known and just try to soak up as much knowledge as you can, because what you see when you work in a real estate office is completely different to the back end of real estate. It can be an ugly industry sometimes too. You need to be thick-skinned. You need to be prepared for that too. Yes. And then be ready to sacrifice, because, to start a business, nothing's profitable straight away. You need to be in a position where you can make the sacrifice too. Yeah. So I'm glad that, everything fell into place for us, where it all happened at the right time.
But you thought about it and you planned for it. So, planning's the key to success, right?
Absolutely. And I think that paid off in the end. Yeah. Like, for us, everything just fell into place. It hasn't been easy. I wouldn't say it's easy to anyone, but it certainly hasn't. We haven't come up against a lot of roadblocks where it's been especially hard for us. Yeah. And it's because we took our time. We planned. We didn't rush to open the doors immediately. We took 3 months of planning. We did our own marketing. We did everything so we didn't have to outsource. And we took our time just to, make sure we were ready to open those doors
Oh, you've done great. Absolutely great. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was absolutely fabulous. And you've given us some great insights into basically starting a real estate office. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm going to put all of your details in the caption so that anyone that needs to reach out to you can reach out to you.
Great. That sounds great. Thank you very much. It's been really enjoyable.